Okay, still with the bad voice, so still not on camera. Don't feel like I look beautiful right now. But we got the majority report. If you've been watching my channel at all, you know I'm not happy with the majority report. They're just sycophants for the Democrats. Vote blue no matter who. I think that's a terrible strategy. That's a terrible outlook. They're supposed to be a left wing. They're supposed to be a left wing resource, right? A outlet or whatever, and they're not. So this is their strategy for sidestepping the Democrats if we're going to. Let's go over this. Bernie knows harsh truth Dems don't want to hear. And even Bernie's kind of upsetting me a little bit with this strategy here.
Sam Cedar on the Majority Report. It is a pleasure to welcome back to this program National Affairs Correspondent for The Nation magazine, John Nichols. John, always a pleasure.
It's an honor to be with you, brother.
So, about a week or so ago, I guess now, you published. I'm not sure exactly when you sat down with Bernie Sanders, but obviously this is in the wake of Donald Trump winning the election, and you had an interview with him that made some waves because it feels like Bernie is trying to figure out what's next for for progressives and people on the left in this country. And in some ways, he's sort of like he's tried a lot of different avenues. Give me a sense of what you came.
Have you got a suspension trainer, but you don't know how to use it with the right?
Give me a sense of what you came away thinking from that interview.
Well, it was a terrific interview, and I, like you, Sam, I've interviewed the senator a lot of times. I've known him over a long period of time, and it is absolutely true that he, as a guy getting into his mid 80s, he probably reads more and consults more than almost anybody in politics. He's constantly interested in the evolution of politics, and he clearly came out of the 2024 election, looked at those results and said there are now some fundamental things that have to shift. I mean, he had his initial critique, which is that the Democratic Party has kind of lost its way as regards communicating with working class voters,
Right.
Multiracial, multi-ethnic working class voters, a very key message there. But in our conversation, I was interested in something else he had said.
They lost their way with the white working class voter too.
And that was that in some states, the Democratic brand is so weak that Democrats should stand aside and let independents run as independent, working class, progressive candidates who just don't carry the weight of the Democratic. And something else he had said, and that was that in some states, the Democratic brand is so weak that Democrats should stand aside and let independents run as independent, working class, progressive candidates who just don't carry the weight of the Democratic name.
And I'm gonna call BS on that. If people run independent, great, whatever, that's cool, but there's no real coalition there. Pick a party, pick one, build one. The Green Party, Democratic Socialists of America, the Libertarian Party, whoever fits your morals, your politics the best. Pick a party and build that. The Green Party has a worldwide coalition. If we build the Green Party in the U.S., we could do so much. But so this is not the left wing idea. Do not, like, independents are fine, but if all the lefties go out, all the progressives go out, and they go out as independents, then you're gonna have so much less winning. If they all join the Green Party, say you get 50 to 100 people in every state joining the Green Party and then running, that will build so much momentum and so much it'll promote it so much. People will know we can take over the Democratic Party. We need to build another party. Don't go independent, go green.
And that's a very controversial thing to say, right? Because parties are very obsessed with their brands. They don't want to give that space to somebody who is not, running on.
So we need to take it
for a variety of reasons. They don't want to acknowledge there are places where they just can't compete. And yet, I think Sanders kind of, he broke the ice on this one. He basically said, look, there are places where the Democratic Party is not competitive.
But see, this is where Bernie's my man. I love Bernie Sanders, but I totally disagree here. Build the Green Party.
And where if you want to achieve a functional working class politics in America that will primarily exist within the Democratic Party, ideally,
Nope.
but that will also bring in independents like himself. And remember, he's always running one.
He just has nowhere else to go.
That's a approach that might work and actually be one of the better responses to this moment that we are in, where I think Democrats are desperately trying to figure out who they're going to be when they grow up.
This is exactly why Malcolm X and Martin Luther King talked about how dangerous liberals are. These guys are faking you to the center. This is not progressive politics. Build a progressive party. Don't have progressives run individually and then go to the Democratic Party or try to boost the Democratic Party. You see AOC and her mama bear. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, and he was, specifically citing, at least in this cycle, Dan Osborne out of Nebraska, and so I mean, it's sort of a twofer though, too, isn't it? Like, one is an electoral strategy that presumably would benefit the Democrats in the sense that, like, if Deb Fischer requires money from the Republican senatorial campaign, that's money that's not going otherwise. I mean, volunteers, et cetera, et cetera. But it also means that you're creating sort of almost like a coalitional, a coalitional thing in a place like the Senate or the House. Like, I mean,
Sam is bullshitting right here. That's what I'm talking about. We need to build a coalition, or we need to build this coalition, right? They're saying run independents. That's the exact opposite of a coalition. Independence, coalition, those are on the opposite side of the scale or whatever. Equals, that doesn't make any sense. I'm starting to get angry when I watch the Majority Report. The stuff Sam is saying is just making lefties and progressives move to the right, getting hard up in the center, voting for Democrats. This is bullshit. If you watch the Majority Report, watch it like it's CNN. Watch it like it's MSNBC. This is not real news. This is Democratic propaganda, straight up.
If there had been 20 Bernie Sanders over the course of, the 20 years that you and I have been talking, I know you've been talking to Sanders for longer than that.
Yeah.
In the House, let's say, we would see some very different outcomes, maybe.
If you had 20 Bernie Sanders over the past 10, 20 years in anywhere, say they were all join the Green Party, then the Green Party would get publicity, would get known. Then other people would vote for the Green Party. It doesn't make any sense to take. Bernie Sanders has so much power, and he can't use it. He went to the Democratic Party, and he used his power and brought his people, and we were ready. I was ready. I was there. And the Democrats said, your power is not enough. We're a business, man. Pushed him off to the side and put in Hillary Clinton. All right, cool. 2020, even 2016, he should have went right to the Green Party once he known he was cheated. 2020, he should have went to the Green Party. We could have built that. But say there was 20 Bernie Sanders over the last 20 years, and they built coalitions in the Green Party or Democratic Socialists of America. It doesn't, whatever, a left-wing progressive party, which is not the Democrats. But Sam Cedar, I used to love the Majority Report, and it's like really hurt my feelings to watch them do this now. Michael Brooks is turning over in his grave, set on fire, whatnot. Like I can't believe this is what they're doing now. They used to have on clips of Nelson Mandela talking to Fidel Castro, And these people are now telling you blue no matter who.
You're so smart, Sam. That's exactly the right way to start to think about some of this. We are locked into a incredibly rigid two-party system in the United States. That system is reinforced by structural realities in the states, by huge amounts of money, and by a media that is literally too stupid to entertain more than two.
Oh my gosh. He's going to say a media that is too stupid to entertain more than a second party. And right here, I'm calling out Sam Seder for doing the exact same shit that he's going to say right in front of his face. And watch this just go right over both their fucking heads. I'm sorry, man. Like, I'm not monetized on YouTube yet. As you see, I get 10 to 20 views, so it doesn't really matter what I say. I could cuss a little bit, but I mean, I try not to swear too much, but these people, this is crazy, man. Like, it's not cool. These are not progressive. These are not leftists. And they're taking leftists and trying to funnel them into the right-wing Democratic Party. And it's not cool, man. Like,
two-party system in the United States. That system is reinforced by structural realities in the states, by huge amounts of money, and by a media that is literally too stupid to entertain more than two ideas at a time, and often not even two. And so as a result, the two-party system is sort of overwhelming. Is there a model in this system, acknowledging that it should be reformed in all sorts of ways? Is there a model to create something that's a little bit broader, right? That there's a little bit more space for.
Is there a model that creates a little bit more space, a little broader for information for these news channels to give us information about more than two parties? Is there? I might call that YouTube, where Sam Seder has been for a long time, where we got Savvy Sabs, Jamal Thomas, we got some lefties out here. They don't get looked at like these centrist liberals like the Majority Report here. But what are you talking about, man? Yes, there's a model. It's right here. You're on it.
Or independent and progressive ideas to be a part of the discourse and to have a sort of a push and pull on the Democratic Party, recognizing that it will, at least in these times, be better than the Republican Party. And I think you're right. This is one avenue where you explore that. Remember, it's not new, this idea. Franklin Roosevelt's success in the 1930s as the head of a party that included people who sympathized with socialism, who actually were unquestionably socialists, all the way to rigid Southern segregationists who were just, unbelievably right-wing. Right? These are all within the Democratic Party. How did he achieve the New Deal, which was imperfect, but certainly huge amount of social progress?
How did he approve the New Deal? Because everyone likes left-wing progressive policies. They just don't like to say they do, but if you ask people issue by issue, everybody wants a 40-hour work week or less. Everybody wants to get paid more. Everybody wants health care for themselves and their family. And most people want health care for everybody. Who wants to see people hurt? But I mean, if you do, and these guys are pushing right-wing Democrats. It's so upsetting to see where they've gone.
It was because in the House and especially in the Senate, you had independents like George Norris, a former Republican. You had several progressives from Wisconsin. You had nonpartisan leaguers from North Dakota. You had farmer labor senators and representatives from Minnesota. And you had American Labor Party folks coming out of New York. You understand what I'm saying?
Be Green Party.
You actually had this coalitional thing, and it actually is one of the things that made the New Deal better.
I mean, one point just we should point out in that dynamic is that when you're talking about those Dixiecrats, they, at least in terms of relative to the success of the New Deal, their ideology was, at least to their benefit, built around an ideology which necessarily did not have the power for a political pushback. In other words, they're talking about racism. They build it into Social Security, at least in some professions that were primarily, black or immigrant, that were not included. they have that good fortune of attacking a group of people who have no political power, right? I mean, at that time. So like, there's no pushback, or there's not the pushback from the black community in that instance. I'm just saying that for the point still stands.
Well, no, but I think it's important to understand that in that dynamic that you saw back in the New Deal era, where Roosevelt was getting pushed from the left, right?
Because they had a coalition.
Do the right thing by any means, but there was a left, right? There was something that was pushing him and pulling him,
and so right now he just admitted that right now there's not a left. I don't think he meant to do that, but the Democrats aren't left. Sam Cedar, these guys aren't left. They're not trying to help the left. The majority report, like I keep saying, they're useless. They're pointless now. They're just Democratic shills, and it really sucks to see them do this.
I think that was into that context that A. Philip Randolph came. And A. Philip Randolph, largely a non-electoral pressure, but his talk about a march on Washington in 1940, 1941 definitely forced the integration of the defense industries. And it similarly as pressure in 48 forced the integration of the military. And all sorts of real progress there. And so I think that having something akin to multi-party democracy, right, allows for more space for social movements outside as well.
100%.
And so coming back,
I guess I'm thinking actually like one of the problems, and I guess maybe this was also a problem at that time as well, but I don't know that we've ever had an era that has been more dramatic this way. And the irony is that Sanders entered the 2016 election, in my sense, as an issue campaign, and his big talking point was, we're on the road to oligarchy. And I don't think there has been as blatant of an example of this, or dramatic, or real, never mind illustrative of
so silly. We started as an oligarchy. Land owning white men could vote, had all the power. Oligarchy means the moneyed people control stuff. Basically, it's just another term for capitalism. But it's just so weird that they act like this is brand new. Even Bernie, man, it's not new. Bernie, stop saying stuff like this.
How money impacted this campaign. I mean, both on a presidential level. I mean, if Donald Trump had to raise his money without having 2 or 3 billionaires essentially fund a third of his campaign and take over essentially his get out the vote thing, the results of this could be very, very different. I mean, people don't talk about this.
But so for the longest, whoever in the race makes the most money, brings in the most, what do you call it, gets the most donations or whatever, it's like 80 or 90% of the time they win.
I hate to give Elon Musk credit, but his ability to jump in 6 months out, 3 months out from the election, dump $150 million into a get out the vote effort, that's a big deal when you're talking about a guy who doesn't even break 50%.
But then Kamala bring in over $1 billion?
Or the AIPAC money that goes in to defeat Bowman and Cori Bush. This is like, Bernie was warning about this at the time, but now it's almost in the rearview mirror.
It's been in the rearview mirror. Jones Plantation.
This is not new, right?
Oh my gosh.
In the Democratic Party, there has always been, and in our politics in general, there has always been a money power, right? The money power has operated in different ways. I promise you we're not going to spend all our time, rehashing the 1940s and stuff like that. But in the book I wrote on the fight for the soul of the Democratic Party, in 1944, Henry Wallace was talking about racial justice in America and talking about bringing that into.
Henry Wallace was FDR's vice president his first 3 terms. And then the Democrats knew that FDR was going to die in his 4th term. So they didn't want Henry Wallace to be president because he was this far left communist type guy, right? He was a world man. Like, he loved workers. He wanted to help people. And so, the capitalists didn't want that. They made FDR take Harry Truman instead of Henry Wallace as the vice president. And Harry Truman is the guy who ended up dropping the atomic bombs on Japan. Had Henry Wallace been in office at that time, things would have been very different, and we probably would have stayed allies with Russia. There would have been no Cold War, and we would have an entirely different world. We would have an entirely different world today, a more connected and cooperative world. But instead, we got little man Harry Truman, who wants to drop bombs.
To the Democratic Party, forcing the Democratic Party to become a better party than it was. There was a combination of the Southern racists, Cash in the 1940s and stuff like that. But in the book I wrote on the fight for the soul of the Democratic Party, in 1944, Henry Wallace was talking about racial justice in America and talking about bringing that into the Democratic Party, forcing the Democratic Party to become a better party than it was.
Didn't want that.
There was a combination of the Southern racists and the Wall Street folks, very clearly, to knock him out as the vice presidential candidate and to make sure that the party went in a very different direction. That was definitional for where this country's gone. What I will tell you, Sam, is again and again and again, when the left has tried to say...
So even then, the Democrats weren't the way. So the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and thinking you're going to get a different result, right? So if the Democrats have been shit since 1944 at least, and they're still shit in 2024, that's 80 years. It's 80 years of poop sandwich they've been giving us. Now we got poop soup with Trump. You want poop sandwich, poop soup? Or can we go to the left? Can we do what people want? Can we get higher minimum wage? Can we build better schools? Can we build better roads? Can we get rid of these potholes? Like, the left isn't worried about companies keeping their profit. We'd rather them use that profit on potholes. We'd rather them use that profit on really good schools for all kids, not just their kids. You know what I mean? So let's keep it.
We are headed toward oligarchy. We are headed toward an overwhelming...
Again, headed toward oligarchy. Land-owning white men had all the say at the beginning. And, like, I'll go after this is over and look it up, but it's like 80 to 90% of the people who bring in the most money in any election win that election, and it's been like that for a long time.
Corporate power defining where our politics is. And frankly, we are headed toward a place where we don't address fundamental issues, racism, sexism, inequality, etc. There has been a kind of pushback on the part of the Democratic Party. What that has always done is empower the right wing of the Republican Party. I mean, that's become the reality of what we've got. And so now we find ourselves in a situation, right, where
we just keep moving to the
right wing, extreme right wing of the Republican Party, has found a way to represent the money power, and it does, by and large. This is, they're very representative of the oligarchy, but represent the money power, and also...
And the Democrats represent the money power too.
So develop some kind of working class base, right? And where does that happen? How does that happen? Well, it gets to right where you're talking about. It's communications, right?
The Democrats said that they would get, for every working class voter they lost, they would get like 2 or 3 suburban voters or something like that. They didn't care about the working class.
Taking over Twitter and turning Twitter into a platform, X, was a very, very big deal. What happened there was a very, very deeply troublesome development in our politics. I would argue some people would celebrate it, because what it tells you is that billionaires can buy platforms, right? And they can buy the places where we communicate.
I mean, they did that with the railroads back in the 20s or 30s or something like that. They always do that. Facebook buys up every app that comes up. What do you mean? That's how oligarchy of capitalism is. The richest buy out whatever they want to buy out, so that there's little to no competition.
Now, There's a survey by Pew
So
Research recently
silly.
that showed that 26% of Americans say they now get their news, their primary news, off YouTube, right? That platform.
Time to do your job,
if I'm a
Sam.
billionaire, I'm thinking about, okay, where's my next step
You're gonna buy
to
YouTube.
influence this process? Do I give money to a candidate or do I buy a platform?
Buy a
Right?
platform.
And this is going to become, I think, one of the great challenges.
So what do we do to stop millionaires, billionaires from buying platforms, buying things that are so big we need, like say railroads, oil companies, nationalize. We can nationalize Facebook, make it an American platform. We can nationalize really anything we wanted. Give Mark Zuckerberg here, just give him $1 trillion. Who cares? There's your money. Facebook is ours. It's for the people, by the people. Go. Nationalize.
Challenges of the next few years. And it's notable. I think this is why you're seeing Zuckerberg and other people flying down or talk about flying down to Mar-a-Lago and stuff like that, because they recognize that we're sort of coming into platform wars, right? It's no longer about getting on MSNBC to do an appearance to talk about something. This is now about, literally, having a dominant oversight of a platform on which people get most of their news. This is huge stuff that we're talking about.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit
So yeah, there you go. Let's run independent, not build a coalition, and screw the left. Sam Cedar is an idiot. Do not listen to him. Listen to him to understand what liberals are saying. But he is not trying to build a left coalition. If you're not, you got to be talking about one of the parties. When they get all close and they say there's no party there, you got to build from or you got to just take the lesser evil. Now is not the time for that. Now is the time that we have time to build something. There's nobody to vote for right now. Talk about some parties, talk about some people, call some people, build some people up. But that's the problem with Sam. He doesn't look at things from across the spectrum.